I know it's late, but it's time for the K3 Mark III review. Well, my K3 Mark III review. So, I know you've all been waiting. Here we go. Okay, so let's talk Pentax K3 Mark III. Now, I know the consensus is the camera is way overpriced. People are still complaining about that. Now, I've thought about this, and yes, if you're looking at strictly, the autofocus capabilities, is it worth the $2,000 fee for the camera? No, it's not. If you look at the frames per second for a DSLR, APS-C DSLR, is it worth the $2,000 US entry fee? No, it's not. If you look at the fact that it has a new optical viewfinder with the most magnification of any APS-C camera, is it worth the entry fee? No, it's not. If you look at just the ergonomics and the menu customization ability in regards to all the different controls around the camera, is it worth it? No, it's not. The ergonomics, how it feels in the hand, is it worth it? No, it's not. However, if you combine every single one of those things and look at the overall picture, is it worth the money? Yes, I think it is. I think a lot of people need to stop comparing the DSLR technology with mirrorless camera technology. DSLRs are inherently more expensive because there's more moving parts, there's more material, than a mirrorless camera. Now, does it have the exact same capabilities as a mirrorless camera? No, it doesn't. They're designed completely differently, and yes, mirrorless cameras do perform certain tasks a lot better. With the electronic viewfinder, being able to have your histogram, and what you see is what you get when you're shooting. But DSLRs were never like that. That's not the point of a DSLR. DSLR is a traditional, exactly what the lens is seeing is exactly what you'll see through the viewfinder. Both systems have their strengths and weaknesses. But in regards to looking at the overall picture of the K3 Mark III, a lot of people say that it's not really much of an upgrade from the K3 Mark I or K3 Mark II. But those of us that actually have the K3 Mark III, we all realize that yes, it is quite a remarkable upgrade from the KP, K70, K3 Mark I, K3 Mark II. It is an entirely brand new camera. So with that said, ergonomic-wise, it fits like a glove, at least from my experience. In one of my previous videos, I did state that going back to the K3 Mark I, as much as I love that camera, the K3 Mark I feels clunky and like slightly disconnected. From when you press the shutter button to when it fires, now I notice there is a lag. It feels very mechanical. The K3 Mark III, on the other hand, is butter smooth. It's really an extension to your mind and your hand. The K3 Mark III is so smooth that this now sounds and feels slightly clunky, and that's a huge thing to say because the K3 Mark I was actually a pretty remarkable camera. But realistically, the difference between the two cameras is using them back to back, this feels, it just now feels just very, very clunky. Click the button, you feel like a click, and then there's a delay, and then it fires. And the K3 Mark III, everything is just completely and utterly butter smooth. You press a button, it happens. There's absolutely no waiting. There's no lag. So in regards to the ergonomics, the button placement, some people do mention that they prefer the button layout of the K3 Mark I, K3 Mark II, which is fine because with the K3 Mark III, you can customize whatever button to do whatever you want. So if you want it set up the way it used to be, you can go ahead and do that. For myself, I do actually like the layout of the K3 Mark III. There is a lot of camera involved, and it's not that simple to
just get it right, you know what I mean, like immediately. But they've done such a remarkable job of fine-tuning the exact to the millimeter location of each one of the buttons. They readily do pretty much fall at hand. And I think they did a very good job in regards to the ergonomics. Now, in regards to the viewfinder, for an APS-C camera, the viewfinder is absolutely amazing. It is a huge leap over the K3 Mark I and K3 Mark II, KP, K70. If you're shooting with the K1, you won't notice that much of a difference because it is pretty much the same viewfinder. The brightness, the field of view, it is a much bigger, brighter viewfinder. Now, if you are shooting from the other Pentax APS-C cameras, and even if you're shooting from other brands like Canon and Nikon that use a penta mirror, you'll notice that this viewfinder is extremely bright. You can see everything. Like the magnification is absolutely fantastic. On top of that, you do the one issue is the overlay for the autofocus points. Yes, it is LCD. Now I'm going to explain exactly what this difference is. So on the previous Pentax cameras before the K1, the ones that had the little red dots that would show up in the viewfinder, those are LED. They're light emitting diodes. Now, in order to do that, there has to be another electronic panel that is overlaid. So you're not going to get the same brightness in the viewfinder. So the design decision that Pentax made is a compromise. Do you not get a brighter, better viewfinder and get the light emitting diode overlay that shows the red autofocus points? Or do we completely and utterly upgrade the viewfinder shooting experience, which is what we're trying to go after? However, we need to use liquid crystal display, which does not illuminate. It's the same as a watch. All right, so you've got my watch here. As you can see, well, now it's lit up. Well, now it's not. There you go. So, the display doesn't light up, right? And when it does light up, it lights up all around. So the red light that you do see is the same idea. It lights up all around the viewfinder because the actual liquid crystal display, the black things, do not actually illuminate themselves. So there is that trade-off. Unfortunately, in certain shooting situations, you will find that it is very hard to actually see the autofocus points. However, over the course of the firmware upgrades, we are now at firmware upgrade 1.20, the autofocus algorithm has improved consistently with each firmware upgrade. I was shooting my dog. I should have kept the pictures. I was just testing and I wasn't really thinking about it, so I apologize. I'm going to try to redo that one. I was shocked. It actually was picking up his eye. And the firmware before that, 1.10, it didn't. It just would not pick his eye. So it looks like they've done some tweaks to the algorithm as well to better find various subjects' eyes. They haven't stated that, but it looks like they have actually done some tweaks in regards to the autofocus deep learning algorithm thingamajiggy bobber. So the camera is becoming more improved. Now, in regards to when the camera first came out, I think it did get released early, and that was a huge problem. And they were working probably overnight with a team of frantic people typing, we got to figure this out. Oh, what do we do? Now, so when the camera came out, I don't think it was 100% ready for prime time. A lot of games do the same thing. They release the game before they've patched everything and before they've actually implemented everything they wanted to, just to get it out to market. And then they follow up with the upgrades, which kind of allows the game to last longer because you're getting these upgrades and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's a new game. Oh, it's like playing a new game again. So it kind of pseudo feels almost like a new camera with the additional capabilities and autofocus target acquisition accuracy. The one thing I did notice now, we're going to move over to shooting speed. I did a quick test last night, and I will be doing another video specifically about this. I noticed, and I don't understand why, and I'm contemplating on reaching out to Pentax to see if they have an answer. I was able to get shooting RAW to one card, the slot one card, and then JPEG large to the second card. I was able to get 34 frames, in high speed continuous at 11 frames per second. I was able to get a full amount of 34 frames. Then I turned on the crop mode, and I was surprised I was only able to get 25 frames. Why? I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know if it's the processing. I'm not sure exactly how the crop works in regards to the pipeline, but I was very surprised that using the 1.3 time crop mode, fully bursting in high speed continuous, I was only able to actually get 25 frames. So yeah, that's a mystery to me. Now, in regards to how the camera feels in the hand, it's fantastic. You can actually hold the camera with one hand and still access the buttons and everything. I found that to be very surprising. The balance on the camera, despite the weight, it is an extremely well-balanced camera. They did an absolutely remarkable job in regards to that element. In regards to the autofocus accuracy, as I said, it is improving. Autofocus acquisition speed is very, very quick. And once it nails the target, it pretty much keeps on target. Now, a lot of it will depend on the lens that you're using. If you're using, for example, I don't know, a screw-driven lens, yes, it has actually improved, but it's not going to be as fast as using one of the higher-end DC motor lenses or the PLM lens. Those will be your best option. And this is not like a mirrorless camera where it has 1,500,000 autofocus points that go from edge to edge. It's got 101 autofocus points. It still uses a separate dedicated autofocus module. Because it is a DSLR, they're just inherently different. So it's not going to have the same type of tracking capability as a mirrorless camera. But for a DSLR, it does hold its own, even against, I know, the same comparison over and over again. It does hold its own in regards to comparing to a D500. Yes, the D500 may be able to get slightly better tracking just because it does go edge to edge in regards to the field of view in the viewfinder. So it does cover more of the sensor. The K3 Mark III does not. But comparing the Pentax K3 Mark III to the previous generation cameras, it is a substantial upgrade. And also with the thumbstick in order to change the zone of where you're shooting, as well as the individual focus points across the frame while you're shooting, and then you just press and then it goes back, it zeroes back into the center. It ergonomically, again, it is a very, very, very well thought out camera. Now, in regards to video, yes, in 4K it is 1.3 time crop, which is it's unfortunate. But even with that said, the issue with the 4K is the fact, despite that the image quality or the video quality is actually decent, the issue that I found is it only allows you 7 minutes and 25 seconds of shooting. That's from my experience. Going into 1080p, you can actually shoot, I think I shot 25 minutes straight, right? Now, I measured the temperature on the camera, and it hit 39 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure exactly what that is in Fahrenheit at this point. You can look it up on Google. They have all kinds of different, conversion sites and stuff that you can find. But 39 degrees Celsius on the outside, measured at the screen, is pretty hot. So I'm pretty sure inside the camera is a lot hotter. So I don't know offhand. I don't live in a tropical area, but I could see in blisteringly hot days or in the tropics with the humidity, I could see that being an issue in regards to the camera overheating and having to, stop and shut down. Which I guess in this day and age isn't really new because, Canon had that same problem. You could probably shoot that thing in like a refrigerated area. It would still say it was overheating. That was a different issue though. That had to do with the sensor. It was just not set right. But yeah, so that's what I found in regards to shooting with video. Now, in regards to the eye tracking autofocus, when it first came out, it was all over the map. It really, it worked here and there. It had to be specific parameters in order for it to work. You had to be a certain distance away in order for it to pick up the eye. Every single firmware update that they've done, they've improved that. So I was able to reliably shoot in AFC with my daughter moving back and forth and turning her head and moving around and doing all kinds of different faces. And it was able to actually track her eye very, very well. And then with the latest upgrade to firmware 1.20, it was actually trying to pick up the eyes on my dog, which I did not see coming at all. Whether it works on birds, that I don't know. I don't know yet. I am still going to do more testing in regards to that. But overall, even with battery life is pretty good. Overall, who is this camera for? And I think that's the big question. And I shoot Pentax, so this is very hard for me to say. But in regards to being truthful and open in regards to my channel, to me, the Pentax K-3 Mark III is it's a natural upgrade path to APS-C shooters within the Pentax ecosystem. Is it a camera that you should move to if you're already shooting Nikon, Canon? I'm trying to stick with DSLRs here. I don't know. It's hard to say. It does not have a tilt screen. The K3 Mark III does not have a tilt screen. However, it does have a wide angle of view screen. It's not the exact same thing, but it does still work when you're out in the field. I was able to shoot at ankle height, way over my head. I was able to see clearly. You just touch the back of the screen and it'll focus and shoot, right? So, I mean, it does have workarounds in regards to the lack of a tilt screen. However, if you are used to shooting Canon or Nikon in regards to a tilt screen, is this a viable upgrade? I don't know. It's hard to say. If you want if you want the latest and greatest APS-C DSLR, then really this is the only choice you have. If you want, a monstrous buffer and high-speed shooting, okay, well, you're not going to get a monstrous buffer in regards to the K3 Mark III, but you will get lightning capability of shooting 11 frames per second in AFC and 12 frames per second in AFS. However, the buffer itself is not going to be, some 100 or even 90 shot buffer. I believe it's more comparable to the Canon 90D. Now, the Canon 90D does much better in regards to video because it does continuous autofocus in real-time tracking. It is a much better vlogger style camera if video is something of your concern. However, if you're a diehard and you want to stick with the optical viewfinder experience you can only get from a DSLR, and you do not want to move up to full frame, if you can find one in the stores, I would suggest that you pick up a K3 Mark III and just try it out. It is a beautifully crafted camera. It is solid. There isn't any flex in that body. The whole thing's completely magnesium from top to bottom. And it allows you to pair your cell phone or your smartphone to the Image Sync app in order for you to geo-tag all your photos while you're out in the field. It's just automatic. You can synchronize the date and time with the phone to the camera as well, so you never have to adjust the time on the camera. The one thing it does not have built in, which a lot of other Pentax cameras do have, is the Astro Tracer function. You would have to get the OGPS module in order to do that. Another thing actually that I've seen a lot of people complain about, which I don't understand, is it doesn't have a built-in flash. Well, actually pretty much every high-end enthusiast to pro-level cameras, none of them have a built-in flash. The reason being is a pro or very experienced photographer is not going to rely on a built-in flash for their flash. They will have an external flash. So I don't really see how, to me, that's not a viable complaint. Like, I do get it in a pinch. If you don't have your flash with you, yes, it has a built-in flash. But usability-wise, I've gone back and forth. I have the K3, and the reason I got the K3 was because it had a built-in flash. And to be honest with you, I've used it, I think, 5 times since I've had the camera, and that was just to trigger an off-camera flash optically. So really, I think that's a non-issue, to be honest. I mean, if you're going high-end, you should understand what to expect from the high-end. There are things that are deemed unnecessary are just not going to be in there. And if you need that option, then you have that option. You can just go buy a flash. You can buy the OGPS unit. It doesn't have to actually be built into the camera itself. And the other thing too that is the 5.5 stop stabilization. Pentax used to state the stabilization, the amount of stops, so 4 stops, 4.5 stops, whatever it was, based on a 50mm lens, which is pretty much what every other camera company is basing all their stabilization on, is off of a 50mm lens. Now, this time, it's 5.5 stops with a 16 to 85mm lens at 85mm. So I'm guesstimating here. I haven't actually done the math, but I'm guesstimating. If you convert that to a 50mm lens, then we're actually getting like 6 stops of stabilization. So that is very remarkable. That is a big feat. Overall, if you want the ultimate in tracking, you want insect, bird, dog, cat, human eye detect autofocus with real-time tracking across the board, no matter where you move the camera or how fast you move it, your only option really is to go mirrorless. That's pretty much it. But at the end of the day, realistically speaking, no holds barred, just giving it to you straight. There is no such thing as a perfect camera that does everything. It just does not exist. Sony has their issues. Canons, have their issues. Nikons have their issues. Pentax has their issues. Olympus has their issues. Is a Micro Four Thirds camera the perfect camera? Well, no, it's not. A lot of pros do use them, and it works for them, but it's not a camera for everybody. Is this Sony A7 III? Is that a perfect camera? No. Is the A7R4 a perfect camera? No. It has its shortcomings as well. The Nikon D500, it's an incredible APS-C camera, but it has its issues too. Like, every single camera had to make a compromise somewhere along the line. So, there is no absolutely perfect camera, but when you combine image quality, high ISO capability, low light autofocus capability, ease of use, ergonomics, weather sealing, build quality, frames per second shooting, autofocus, eye detect autofocus or eye tracking autofocus, using an optical viewfinder in a DSLR, the K3 Mark III actually is a remarkable package. That's all I got to say about this. I mean, like I said, the camera is not actually for everybody. It's also not a one-trick pony. It is designed more for an active field camera where you're out capturing action and things like that in inclement weather. And as such, it doesn't require a tilt screen. Landscape guys, K1, K1 II. That's the thing. Still one of the best landscape cameras ever made. The K3 Mark III is not that. It's it's more of a general all-purpose, do everything very, very well camera. But when it comes to high-speed shooting, it does excel. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a general purpose all-rounder camera. Some compromises had to be made. It does excel in a couple of areas, compared to other APS-C DSLRs. However, again, no camera is absolutely 100% perfect. You really just got to figure out exactly what would work best for how you shoot. For me, it was a hard pill to swallow when I first purchased the K3 Mark III. I will admit that. However, after I used it for about a month, I was like, okay, now I can see where that money went. I can see why the cost is what it is. Like, there is a lot on this camera that has been ground up, reworked, completely redesigned. It's literally a brand new camera. I do agree. I do agree that I don't think it should have been called the K3, just for the fact that it is a from the bottom all the way up to the top, completely brand new camera. Coda, come. Coda, come. Come here, buddy. Come say hi. All right, fine. Yeah. Here. My dog did want, well, started to kind of want to say hi, but there he is. There he is. Look at that little guy. But anyway, yeah, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I think they should have changed the name, made it a whole brand new thing. But I guess, for everybody in Pentax land freaking out that the KP was not a K3 replacement, and we demanded a K3-3. We demand a K3-3. So now we have one. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say about the K3 Mark III. It is a fantastic camera. It is great. It does have its shortcomings. It's not 100% perfect. But as long as they keep what they're doing going in regards to every firmware update, there are improvements over and over and over and over again. I think that they will eventually nail this as one of the absolute best APS-C DSLRs that you could buy. And that's those are my thoughts on the K3 Mark III. If you like the video, leave a like. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. Always helps me out. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you'd like to support the channel, I leave that information at the bottom of the description. And that's it. I gotta get to work, so I gotta go. You will see me on my next video. I'm out.